And it really, is an opportunity to conduct research, collect data that is applicable to industry decision making. Most about the work we do is hopefully those research projects sometimes can be very early in an ideation stage, but all of the work leads to an application that will improve whether it's eating quality, beef safety, nutrition, or other types of categories as well.
Welcome to Meatspad. In collaboration with the American Meat Science Association, it's a platform dedicated to share breakthrough knowledge that is accessible to the global meat industry. On each episode, you'll have the opportunity to listen and learn from meat specialists and professionals about the whole meat industry. This podcast is brought to you by the U.S. Meat Export Federation, Ultrasource, equipment and supplies for the meat and food industry, Viscofan Collagen Casings, the best alternative to animal gut casings for a better taste and sustainable sausage making.
Hello, meat folks. Welcome back to the Meatspad Podcast. It is your happy and hungry host, Phil Bass. I have two guests today, folks that I've known for some time and gotten to work with directly and indirectly in the past. But we have with us Dr. Jessica Lancaster Higgins and Dr. Mandy Carr Johnson. Look at all the names we're sharing today.
We're so nice and include.
How about that?
Next set of names.
That's right. How about that? Well, these two are our representatives of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association on the checkoff side. And we want to talk a little bit about, especially for those who are listening, who are in the academic side and have maybe done research for a checkoff-funded program. Today we're talking beef. I have a tendency to talk a lot about beef, obviously. And so today we're talking beef. So maybe you two can address, first off, share with the audience, what is the checkoff and what are your roles?
Sure, I'll take a start. So the Beef Checkoff is an assessment by a federal act and order that says every time a beef animal is sold, $1 is collected. And it's collected at the state level. So we have state partners like state beef councils that do that collection, and then 50 cents stays in the state for programming that they will develop with their producer board, and the other 50 cents goes nationally to the Cattlemen's Beef Board. And then on an annual basis, contractors, organizations that meet certain criteria, then propose work for that money that's collected. So there's everything from research, consumer information, promotion, industry information, foreign marketing, producer communications, and other types of activities.
Okay. Yeah, and to clarify, so that dollar, that's at the federal legislative level, and then some states have more than the dollar, just for those who might be out there listening.
Yeah,
right?
that's correct.
Yeah.
Some states also have a state additional assessment, and those additional monies, then the state beef council then will add to that amount of programming, and sometimes there's state-specific goals that those funds are collected on behalf of certain different programming too. So an opportunity for a lot of work to be done on behalf of beef producers.
And the purpose, the mission is to increase demand for beef. Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
It really is about increasing beef demand. And so when we look at over time, demand for beef right now is really high.
Yep, very
We
strong.
also have a very low supply.
Yep.
So that is one of those things that sometimes can be confused, is just because consumption may be going down doesn't mean demand has gone down.
Yeah.
It has to do with supply, but demand for beef is high. And so we're excited to be able to do programs on behalf of producers to help continue to build that demand.
Yeah. Well, and the programming that you continue to mention, that could be marketing efforts and educational kind of things, but then it also leads to research, which is the foundation of what education, the continuation of education. And so expand a little bit about that, and especially for our academic listeners out there who maybe have been funded by a checkoff program.
Yeah, I think one of the nice things, I know back when I started my academic career, one of my first projects was a beef checkoff project. I also had a pork checkoff project.
Yep.
And it really, is an opportunity to conduct research, collect data that is applicable to industry decision making. And I think that's one of the things that we enjoy most about the work we do is hopefully those research projects sometimes can be very early in an ideation stage. So it may be several generations from application in the industry, but all of the work leads to an application that will improve whether it's eating quality, beef safety, nutrition, or other types of categories as well.
Okay, so so a project is conducted, and the research entity produces generally a final report. So this is the stuff that we found. They deliver it to you. What happens next with that package of information? What are the next steps?
Yeah, I think it's important to think about it's not necessarily an exchange like you give us a report, we say you're done, congratulations, but it's really more of a relationship. And so I think one of the things to think about is as you get close to finishing that project, thinking about what are you going to do with it next. And we're always open to conversations of what did you find, starting some of those of where do we go next with this? Is there a need for a follow-up project? But also beginning to think of, is this something cool and impactful that we should look at a communication strategy for? Or is it something that maybe fits better in a portfolio of items to really get us a more comprehensive and holistic understanding of a topic?
Yeah.
I think that's often one of the misconceptions about any research project is there's very strict criteria no matter who funds. It's like this is due this date, this has to be, this piece of paper comes after this. But when you get to the end of the project, it can sometimes be a little anticlimactic. You're like, oh, we did all this and now we turned in the paper and that's it. But actually some of the really great extension opportunities happen after that final report.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I know from an academic's perspective, one of our currencies is the publication itself, and so taking that package of information, you're like you said, Jessica, that we're not done there. That's only kind of the beginning of it all. As is the dissemination of that information. So from the academic side, it's important for us to put that into a publishable manuscript that's going to be accepted in a reputable journal. And so many in the academic world are very familiar with that side. How about all the other behind the scenes cool stuff that you can do with something? Say a great discovery was made and it's a consumer facing decision. And so you fund food safety research, right? So maybe you found a better way to wash your hands or something. So give us an example of what do you do with that?
Yeah, I think one of the key things that, to your point, as an academic, always think about publishing the paper, and that is something that's really important for any funding entity. But on behalf of producers, it's like they want to know that something happened more than the proposals. That paper's on somebody's computer somewhere.
Yeah.
So getting that to peer review, the journal that you feel is the best suit, is one of the most important first things that you can be working on. But also along with that is oftentimes the opportunity to share those research outcomes with others in your department or a cross-functional group at your university. Oftentimes there's things that you find out later, we all have, that someone 3 doors down had some great insight and you're like, gosh, I wish I would have known. And so I think that's something that always needs a little bit of energy to say, don't forget to share it with your peers and your colleagues, because now so much research is interdisciplinary and you don't know what will spark an interest in the next ideation, or someone has a unique skill set that you can pull over into your discipline that you didn't even know existed. So I'd say, yes, work on getting it published foremost, but don't forget to share it internally within your own circle, within your department, college, or other peers on campus is critical.
Since 1883, Ultrasource has been a trusted supplier to the food industry. Ultrasource provides superior kill floor, processing, packaging, and labeling equipment and operational supplies.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the academics, especially those who are maybe going through their graduate research programs right now, and sometimes we go into the graduate seminars with this eye roll and oh gosh, do we have to do this? But why are we doing this? Well, it's actually has a good purpose, and it is a dissemination of information at a very regional, local level in that case. But then, yes, of course, we're going to put that into some type of publication. But the reality is that a lot of our either meat processors, cattle producers, and consumers probably aren't reading journal articles regularly. Not scientific journal articles anyway. And so what are some of the next steps that we can do with the information in that regard?
Yeah, and I think that's a really good opportunity to, from those conversations Mandy just talked about, figure out what those key takeaways are and what we really want to share from that. And I think there's two ways we do that. One is we have an outstanding team, not only of scientists, but also communications team that can help us come up with a communication strategy. And sometimes that's one project. Sometimes maybe that's a summation of 3 or 4 years of work to really get that key nugget that's important to our producers and industry stakeholders. But also all universities have those teams at their university as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is, and most often it's incredibly impactful when that comes from within a university and they really share and spread that message to their stakeholders. And so I think it's a combination of both, and really the support of what you've done as an individual, but also what we can do in partnership, and knowing that it likely won't look the same for 2 projects or even within 2 different disciplines.
Yeah. Well, it's like most anything, we want to get mileage out of stuff, and so the regional presentations, even the national and international presentations, get that information out there to other academics so that they can maybe build on the subject matter. The formal scientific journal publications are very important, but now you're starting to mention things that might be more internal in the academic community, and that's where extension really comes into play. And so getting the message out to the consumer level, to the producer level, to maybe small processors in the area so that they can continue to grow.
And I think, it's a great opportunity to think about also ag trade media.
Yeah.
So many times, you can have one-off conversations and really share that work, but also that opportunity to engage with the ag trade media, and funding entities like ourselves can help with that, but also most of those reporters are looking for content. So knowing what you're working on and being able to share those outcomes, they have a broad bandwidth for who they disseminate to. And so sometimes those are great opportunities.
Yeah. Well, and especially for those out there listening, Meatspad is always welcoming any kind of information that you want to share. We'd love to have you on as well. But yeah, the more traditional media outlets, even the local TV station. I mean, we just need to get this information out there. So folks
And
know.
Phil, you mentioned it has a great purpose and extension.
Yeah.
And I also think a lot of this work goes really great in teaching and in the classroom and educating the next generation of students. So I think as scientists, we're always really quick to jump to the next project and figure out the next cool idea.
Yeah.
But incorporating those results into those presentations you're giving often is really a key component that helps educate the next generation.
Well, great example. I mean, I use your research, Jessica, regularly in my classes, just because it's cool. First off, it was very applied, and then it's also very relatable to the subjects that we're teaching right now. Big carcasses are a challenge in the beef industry. It's a challenge from a processing side, but in reality, it's kind of almost a blessing considering the smaller herd size that we're dealing with right now. And so it's a way to get more tonnage, obviously. So we need to continue to just get better at utilizing what resources we have. Maybe it's that big carcass. The added value research that you've done in the past on the dry aging side of things. But then also coming to meetings like the Reciprocal Meat Conference and just networking with others in the discipline, we're able to gain a lot of additional knowledge from Checkoff funded research and go and apply it back into the classroom, which is really cool. So I appreciate you guys doing that. Yeah. Yeah. Any other thoughts you want to share on the topic of what happens next after that final report?
I would just encourage everyone that is, if you have grant funding, no matter who it is through, be in contact with the funding entity.
Yes.
And understand, what your goals are, what their goals are, and how you can work together to, one, extend that information to those that need to know beyond maybe what you're used to experiencing or what your ideas are. Really look at that and know that most entities will encourage that sharing of information through the scientific community, but also broader, so that, one, as many other entities with funding resources being reduced by however the funding is generated, we're always looking for how do we make sure and share that so that we don't have duplication, but we can help incorporate the knowledge into decision making as quickly as possible. So reach out, don't be afraid to ask. You never know what resources are available. And we always encourage folks to take those opportunities to share internally use your communications team on campus. Is that post on the website? Is it do a webinar? Is it talk to Ag-Trade Media? Sometimes a little scary. We weren't trained to do that, but most of them are very friendly.
Well, and to some of your points there, I'll elaborate a little bit, and something that Jessica and I have regularly talked about is if you have an idea, maybe don't just wait. Maybe reach out and see if this is an idea that is in line with the current mission and goals of whichever checkoff we're talking about. Reach out to those entities. Of course, you two would be a great resource to begin with on the beef side of things. But if you have an idea, share it. And don't be discouraged if you do apply some to some type of funding source and it's not accepted. Reach out and find out why and what can we do to make it better, because you may indeed lead to an even bigger and better project nonetheless. Right.
I think we've seen, over time, some really great competition in research proposals. In some of our areas, it's 1 in 7 get funded. Some areas 1 in 5, others 1 in 23.
Yeah.
So to your point, don't be discouraged. Maybe the idea gets, reformulated. Maybe you gain a partner that brings another piece of expertise that makes that proposal, even closer next time. But a lot of great projects don't get funded just because of the lack of resources. But don't be discouraged by that. Hang in there.
Yeah.
Keep at it. Keep improving it.
Yeah. Each of the projects, in some way or another, is going to be funneled into the greater body of information. If you have some interest out there to see where this stuff is going, beefitswhatsfordinner.com. It's really easy to type in, and there's a ton of information there. And especially, I love the infographics that you guys have, and there are a lot of them.
And I would throw out there beefresearch.org. So there we publish not only our technical information, but also our market research. So as we think about, everybody always wants to know what the consumer's thinking. And so as you're writing grants or figuring out what the dissemination of that is, really cool to share those insights as well. And some great project summaries go there, as well as infographics and teaching resources. So a wealth of information there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I appreciate you guys joining today. Thank you so much. And we'll keep talking.
Great.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.